I started paying attention to the small things after that trip. The way people look at you when they think you're not watching. The way a smile can mean absolutely nothing. We were 17. Senior year biology field trip to the Cascade Research Station, 4 hours north into forest, so thick you couldn't see the sky once you got a mile in. 32 students, 2 teachers, 3 days of aquatic ecosystem study. My parents signed the waiver without reading it. I remember that now. The station was smaller than the pictures suggested. 6 cabins arranged in a half circle around a main lodge, everything built from the same dark wood that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Dr. Reese, our lead teacher, each told us the whole facility had been a private family compound before the state bought it for educational use. Someone asked what happened to the family. He didn't answer. They split us into cabin groups alphabetically. I ended up with 5 others I barely knew. Maya sat on the bunk across from mine and smiled in that way people do when they're being polite but don't actually want to talk. I smiled back the same way. The first day was standard. We waded into the shallows of the lake with collection nets, logged water samples, pretended to care about pH levels. The lake was called Mirror Lake on our maps, but the water was too dark to reflect anything. It smelled wrong. Not rotten exactly, just old. Like something that had been undisturbed for a very long time. That night during dinner in the lodge, I noticed the staff for the first time. 23 of them. They served food, but never spoke. An older man with a face like weathered stone, a woman maybe 40 with hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, and a younger guy around 20 who watched us the way you watch animals at a zoo. Not hostile, just observing. Maya leaned over during the meal. They related, they all have the same eyes. She was right. I hadn't noticed it until she said it, but all 3 had the same pale gray eyes. The same way of moving. Deliberate. Careful. Dr. Reese stood up to outline the next day's schedule. Sample collection at dawn, specimen identification until lunch, free time in the afternoon, night hike after dinner, mandatory attendance for everything. No one was to go anywhere alone. Those were the rules. The younger staff member was watching Dr. Reese while he talked. Not listening, yet watching. There's a difference. Back in our cabin that night, someone suggested we sneak out after lights out, raid the lodge kitchen, maybe find where they kept the decent snacks. Everyone laughed except Maya. She was looking out the window at the tree line. You notice there aren't any animals? I hadn't. But she was right, no birds, no insects. The forest was completely silent. We didn't sneak out. I don't know why. Maybe we were more tired than we thought. I woke up at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom. The cabin was cold in a way that didn't make sense for late spring. I could see my breath. When I came back, Maya's bunk was empty. Her shoes were still by the door. The window above her bed was open. I told myself she'd just gone to the bathroom in the main lodge. Couldn't sleep, wanted to stretch her legs. People do that. But I stood at that window for a long time, looking out at nothing, and the forest looked back. She was at breakfast. When I asked her if she was okay, she said yes. She didn't ask why I was asking. The morning session ran long. We were cataloging invertebrate species from the lakebed samples when Dr. Reese got a radio call. He stepped outside, came back looking different, smaller somehow. He told us to pack up early, get ready for lunch. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. The afternoon was supposed to be free time. Instead, they kept us in the lodge. Board games, cards, a documentary about wetland conservation that was clearly meant for middle schoolers. The staff stood at the exits, not blocking them, just standing there. I asked to use the bathroom. The older man with the stone face followed me into the hallway, and not into the bathroom, just waited outside. When I came out, he was reading the bulletin board, like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Old announcements from field trips 5-6 years ago, names of students, smiling faces and faded photographs. "Do you know what happened to the family that used to own this place?" I asked him. He looked at me with those pale gray eyes. "They're still here." Back in the main room, I sat next to Maya. She was building a house of cards with hands that shook slightly. "We need to leave," she whispered. "What?" "I went out last night. I wanted to see the lake at night. There's something in the water, something big." "Like a fish?" She knocked over the card house, started rebuilding it. "Fish don't watch you back. Where are you watching from? And are you watching alone?" "And subscribe and stay." The night hike was non-negotiable. Dr. Reese handed out flashlights, divided us into groups of 4. "Safety in numbers," he said. We'd take the loop trail around the lake, about 2 miles total, learn about nocturnal ecosystem activity. The other teacher, Mrs. Chen, looked like she wanted to object but didn't. My group was me, Maya, and 2 guys from the soccer team who treated everything like a joke until it wasn't funny anymore. The younger staff member was our guide. He introduced himself as Thomas. First time he'd spoken directly to us. The trail was well marked, but the flashlight beams didn't penetrate far. Trees pressed in from both sides. Thomas walked ahead of us, his light swinging in steady arcs. He was humming something. I couldn't place the tune. Maya stayed close to me. "The water," she said quietly. "Don't look at the water." But of course I did. The lake stretched out to our left, black and still, and she was right. There was something in it, not in it, under it, a shape too large to be a fish, too deliberate in its movement to be debris. It paced us, kept exactly parallel to our group. One of the soccer players, Jared, noticed it too. "Is that a person swimming?" Thomas stopped humming, stopped walking, turned around with his flashlight, pointed at the ground so we couldn't see his face clearly. "No one swims in Mirror Lake." "Then what is it?" "Part of the ecosystem. Keep moving." We kept moving. The shape kept pace. Halfway around the loop, Thomas stopped again, this time at a small clearing where the trail split. One path continued around the lake. The other led inland into the deeper forest. "And there's been a change in plans," he said. "We're taking the inland route." "That's not what Dr. Reese said," Maya objected. "Dr. Reese approved the change." Thomas was already walking down the inland path. "Stay close." I don't know why we followed him. Maybe because he was the adult. Maybe because the thing in the water had gotten closer to shore. Maybe because somewhere behind us on the trail, we could hear the other groups and their guides, and their voices were getting further away instead of closer. The inland path was narrower. Roots crossed it in places that made walking difficult. Thomas's humming started again. The same tune. Almost familiar, but not quite. Jared pulled out his phone. No signal, but he tried to use it as a second light source. The screen flickered and died. Battery full when we'd started. He tried to restart it. I did nothing. "Phones don't work well out here," Thomas said without turning around. "Magnetic interference from the mineral deposits." We walked for what felt like an hour but was probably 20 minutes. The path twisted, doubled back on itself. Trees started to look the same. When I tried to mark our progress by the trail signs, I realized there weren't any anymore. Maya grabbed my arm. "We're walking in circles." She was right. I'd seen that twisted pine 3 times now. "Thomas," I called out, "we need to head back." He stopped, turned. In the combined light of our flashlights, his face looked different, older or younger, I couldn't tell. "We are heading back. This is the shortcut." "Shortcut to where?" "The beginning." That's when the lights started appearing between the trees. Not flashlights, too steady, too cold, and they moved independently, weaving through the forest in patterns that suggested coordination, purpose. The second soccer player, Marcus, said what we were all thinking. "We should run." "No," Thomas said sharply. "You should never run. They respond to movement." "Who responds?" But he was walking again, faster now. We followed because the lights were behind us and spreading out to flank our position. Staying with Thomas seemed like the only option that didn't end with us alone in the dark. The path opened suddenly into another clearing. This one had structures. Not cabins exactly, something older. Stone foundations where buildings used to stand. In the center, a well with no cover, just a dark circular mouth in the ground. Thomas walked to the well and set his flashlight on the edge, pointing down, where the beam disappeared into darkness that seemed to absorb it. The family never left," he said. "They're still here, in the lake, in the forest, in the water table that feeds everything." Maya was backing away. "You're one of them." "I was. Before I understood what staying meant." He looked at us then, really looked, and something in his eyes had changed. Fear. Actual fear. "They let me think I could leave, let me go to college, start a life. Then they called me back. That's what they do. They let you think you escaped." The lights in the forest were closer now. I could almost make out shapes behind them. Almost. "Run," Thomas said. "Not from them, from this place, from everything it offers. Don't come back. Don't let them make you think you're safe." "What about you?" I asked. "I came back. That was my mistake." He turned toward the lights, started walking toward them. The humming resumed, louder now, and I finally recognized the tune. It was the song they'd played during dinner the first night. A lullaby. We ran. I don't remember making the decision, but suddenly we were crashing through the forest, branches tearing at clothes and skin. No path, no direction, just away. I don't know how long we ran or how we found our way back. Time folded in on itself. One moment we were lost in the trees. The next we were stumbling into the clearing where the cabins stood. All the lights were on. Dr. Reese and Mrs. Chen were standing outside the lodge with the rest of the students. They looked relieved until they saw it was only the 3 of us. "Where's Thomas?" Dr. Reese asked. We told him. Not everything, but enough. They'd seen something happened on the hike. Thomas went into the forest. The lights. The old foundations. Dr. Reese's face went carefully blank. "There are no old foundations on the inland trail." "We saw them," Maya insisted. "The inland trail has been closed for 5 years. Since the accident." They found Thomas 2 days later. Not in the forest. In the lake. He'd been in the water for approximately 48 hours, according to the coroner, which was impossible because we'd seen him alive 12 hours before they started the search. The field trip ended that morning. Buses came early. Parents were called. No one explained anything. We signed statements that said we'd gotten separated from our guide during a night hike and made our own way back safely. They gave us pamphlets about wilderness safety and trauma counseling. I don't talk to Maya anymore. She transferred schools the next year, but sometimes I see her posts online. She's studying marine biology now, specializing in deep lake ecosystems. Her profile picture is her standing beside dark water, smiling that same polite smile. Last week she posted a photo from a research station up north. The caption said she was going back to finish what she started. The location tag said Mirror Lake. I reported the post. Tried to message her. The account was deactivated within an hour. Sometimes I still hear that humming. Not from outside, from somewhere deeper. And I know that Thomas was right. They let you think you escaped. They let you build a whole life. And then they call you back. I just don't know if the call is for Maya or if she's the one making it. You get the permission slip for the cave tour had a clause about confined spaces and respiratory conditions. My mom made me read it twice before signing. She asked if I was sure I wanted to go. I said yes because everyone else was going and I was 16 and stupid. The Mammoth Cave system wasn't actually Mammoth Cave. That's in Kentucky. This was the Sterling Caverns, a privately owned network about 40 miles from our school. The owner gave tours to school groups at a discount, had been doing it for 30 years. Mr. Patterson, our earth science teacher, said it was perfectly safe. He'd taken students there a dozen times. There were 23 of us. Small group for a field trip, but it was an optional excursion for extra credit. The kids who came were mostly the ones who needed their grades pulled up before finals, plus a few like me who just wanted out of school for a day. The owner met us at the entrance. His name was Robert Sterling, same as the caves. He was maybe 60, built like someone who spent a lot of time underground, compact and solid. When he shook my hand, his palm was cool and dry, like stone. Rules are simple, he said. Stay with the group. Don't touch formations. Don't wander off. The marked route is a 3-mile loop. Takes about 2 hours. Questions? Someone asked if there were bats. He smiled. Not anymore. The entrance was a concrete structure built into a hillside, modern and unremarkable. But once we descended the stairs and passed through the steel door, everything changed. The temperature dropped 15 degrees. The air tasted different. Mineral. Ancient. Robert led us down a sloping passage, carved smooth by water and time. Emergency lights were strung along the ceiling every 20 feet, but they created more shadows than illumination. Our footsteps echoed in ways that suggested vast spaces beyond what we could see. The first chamber was called the Cathedral, appropriate name. Ceiling disappeared into darkness above us, walls stretched out to either side like arms. Formations hung down like frozen waterfalls. Robert explained how stalactites and stalagmites formed, his voice bouncing off surfaces we couldn't see. I was standing near the back of the group, next to a girl named Vanessa. She was drawing in a sketchbook, trying to capture the formations. "This is incredible," she whispered. It was, but there was something else underneath the awe. A feeling I couldn't name, even like we were being tolerated. We moved deeper. The passages narrowed, then opened into another chamber. This one Robert called the ballroom. Flatter, wider. In the center was a pool of water so clear and still it looked like polished glass. Our reflections stared back up at us, distorted by the angle. The water table is 40 feet below us, Robert explained. That pool is connected to an underground river system that runs for hundreds of miles. Nobody knows where it starts or where it ends. We've sent divers down. They've never found the bottom. He said it like it was interesting, not concerning. Mr. Patterson checked his watch. We were right on schedule. Another 90 minutes and we'd loop back to the entrance. Everything was fine, except Vanessa had stopped walking. She was staring at the pool. Weren't there something in the water? We all looked. I didn't see anything except darkness below the surface. Probably a reflection, Robert said. The lights play tricks down here. But he moved us along faster after that. The next section was called the Narrows. The passage squeezed down to maybe 3 feet wide, walls pressing in from both sides. Robert went through first, showing us it was safe. We followed in single file. Some of the bigger kids had to turn sideways. I was halfway through when the lights went out. Not all of them, just the section we were in. Behind us and ahead, the passage glowed faintly, but our stretch went completely black. Someone screamed. Flashlights came on, beams crossing wildly. Mr. Patterson was calling for everyone to stay calm, stay still, just wait for the backup system to kick in. In the darkness and confusion, I heard it. A sound like breathing, deep and slow, coming from below us, from the rock itself. The lights flickered back on. Robert was counting heads, making sure everyone was accounted for. We were all there. But Vanessa was looking at her hands. They were wet, not from touching the walls. These caves were dry in this section. She looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. Something touched me, she said, in the dark. Robert heard her. Nothing down here can touch you. The formations are mineral deposits, completely inert. Not the formations. She showed him her palm. There was a mark, not a bruise, an impression. Like fingers had pressed into her skin hard enough to leave indentations. Robert's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. We'll keep moving. We're past the halfway point. Faster to go forward than back. No one asked why we couldn't just go back. We followed him deeper. The passage opened into a chamber Robert didn't name. He didn't explain the formations or point out interesting features. He just walked us through quickly, light swinging ahead of him. Vanessa stayed close to me. The marks on her hand were darkening, turning purple. They looked exactly like fingerprints. I think we should turn around, she said quietly. He said forward is faster. I don't think he's taking us to the exit. I looked ahead. Robert was moving with purpose now. Not the leisurely pace of a tour guide. The efficient movement of someone with a destination in mind. The walls in this section were different. Smoother. Not naturally eroded. Carved. And there were marks on them. Not graffiti. Older. In symbols worn almost flat by time, but still visible if you knew what to look for. Mr. Patterson noticed them too. Robert, what is this section? I don't remember this from previous tours. Expansion area, we opened it last month. That was a lie. The symbols were centuries old, maybe older. The chamber we entered next was massive, ceiling so high our lights didn't reach it. And in the center was a pit. Not a pool like before. A pit. Rough-edged and descending into absolute darkness. Robert walked to the edge. This is called the throat. It drops 300 vertical feet before it levels out into a horizontal passage. We think it connects to the river system, but we've never been able to prove it. Why is it called the throat? Someone asked. Robert didn't answer, and he was looking down into the pit with an expression of intense concentration, listening. And then I heard it too. That breathing sound. Louder now, regular, like something sleeping. Vanessa grabbed my arm. We need to leave, now? Just a few more minutes, Robert said without turning around. There's something I need you to see. Mr. Patterson stepped forward. Actually, I think we should head back. Some of the students are getting anxious and you can't go back. Robert finally turned to face us. The narrows collapsed after we came through. Didn't you feel it? That wasn't a power failure. That was settling. This system is old, unstable. The only way out is through. He was lying. I knew he was lying, but I also knew that if we ran, we'd get lost in those passages. He was our only guide. Through where? Mr. Patterson's voice had an edge now. Robert pointed down into the pit. The descent takes about 40 minutes if you're careful. There's a fixed rope system. We installed it for emergency use. This qualifies. You expect us to climb down into that? I expect you to survive. That's what you want, isn't it? Something in the way he said it made my skin crawl. Like survival was negotiable. Like it required his permission. Vanessa pulled at my sleeve. She was backing away from the group toward one of the passages that branched off from this chamber. Come on. I looked at Mr. Patterson. He was arguing with Robert now, their voices echoing. The other students were clustering together, uncertain. Vanessa and I slipped into the side passage. No one noticed. Or if they did, they were too focused on the argument to care. The passage twisted back on itself, narrowed, opened into a smaller chamber. This one had formations that looked wrong. Too regular, too deliberate. And the walls had more of those symbols. Fresher than the others. Recent. What is this place? I asked. Vanessa was examining the walls. I don't think it's a cave system. I think it's something else. Something older that the caves broke into. That doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. The breathing, the thing in the water, those marks on my hand. She held up her palm. The fingerprints had spread. They covered her entire hand now, dark purple turning black. Behind us we heard shouting, then screaming, then silence. We ran. The passage split. We took the right branch. It split again. We took the left. We were completely lost within minutes, but lost meant away from whatever was happening in that chamber. The breathing sound followed us, grew louder. It was coming from everywhere now. The walls, the ceiling, the floor beneath our feet. Vanessa stopped running. It's not breathing. What? It's water. Moving through the rock. The whole system is flooded somewhere below us, and the water level is rising. As if to confirm her theory, water began seeping through cracks in the passage floor. Just a trickle at first, then more. The stone beneath our feet was getting slick. We kept moving. The passage sloped upward, which seemed good, away from the rising water toward the surface. It opened into a chamber we'd seen before, the cathedral, the first stop on the tour, which meant the entrance was close. But something was different. The formations had changed position. Not moved exactly, but rearranged. Like someone had reset a stage. And there were people in the chamber. Robert, Mr. Patterson, all 23 students. They were standing in a circle around the edge, facing inward. Completely still, not breathing, not blinking. Vanessa grabbed my hand. Don't go near them. But Mr. Patterson turned his head, saw us, smiled. There you are, we were waiting. His voice was wrong, too flat, like someone doing an impression. "We're leaving," I said. "You can't leave. Not until you've seen it." "Seen what?" He pointed to the center of the circle. Where there should have been empty floor, there was now a hole. The same hole from the other chamber, the throat. It had followed us, or we'd never left at all. From the hole came a sound. Not breathing anymore. Something else. Like words in a language that predated language. And with the sound came water. Black water that reflected nothing. It filled the hole, spilled over the edges, spread across the chamber floor. The circle of people stepped forward in perfect unison. Into the water. Robert looked at us with eyes that were no longer his own. "It's been here longer than the caves. Longer than the stone. It's what carved the passages. It's what breathes through the rock. And every 30 years, it needs to be fed." "Fed what?" Vanessa asked. "Understanding, memory, identity." He smiled. "Don't worry, it doesn't hurt. You just stop being you and start being part of something older." The water was rising faster now, up to our ankles. Cold beyond cold. Where it touched skin, sensation stopped. Not numbness, absence. And Vanessa was pulling me toward the passage we'd come from. But it wasn't there anymore. The chamber had no exits, just walls and formations and the rising water. "There's always a way out," I said. "Robert said so." Robert lied. Vanessa was looking up now, at the ceiling, where a crack ran between formations. Natural light bleeding through. "Help me climb." We used the formations as handholds. The rock was slick with moisture and age, but we climbed anyway because the alternative was standing still while the water rose and took everything we were. Behind us, the people in the circle were sinking, not drowning, dissolving, becoming part of the water, becoming part of whatever lived in it. The crack was barely wide enough to squeeze through. Stone tore clothes and skin. We didn't care. We pushed through into a narrow chimney that angled upward. Natural light above. Real light. We climbed until our hands bled. Until we couldn't breathe. Until we broke through soil and roots and emerged into forest and daylight and air that tasted like freedom. We were 12 miles from the cave entrance. Rescue teams found us walking along the highway, hypothermic and incoherent. They searched the Sterling caverns for weeks. Never found the other students, never found Mr. Patterson, never found Robert Sterling. The official report said catastrophic flooding, underground river surge, bodies swept into inaccessible passages. The families got closure with empty caskets. Vanessa and I know different. We know the water didn't sweep anyone away. It absorbed them. Ice made them part of something that's been waiting in the dark places of the world since before anything had a name for darkness. The marks on her hand never faded. They're still there. Perfect fingerprints in purple black. Sometimes when she's sleeping, I see them move, pressing deeper, like something's trying to hold on. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about anything from that day. But I see it in her eyes every time she looks at standing water, that recognition, that knowledge. The Sterling Caverns reopened 6 months later under new management, different name. Same caves. They give tours every weekend, families, school groups, people looking for adventure. I wonder which group will be the next. To see the throat, to hear the breathing, to understand that some places aren't meant to be explored. They're meant to be avoided. Nights sealed off, forgotten. But we don't forget, and neither does the water. It remembers every person who ever descended into those passages, every identity it claimed, every life it absorbed. And it's still there, still waiting, still breathing through stone. 30 years is a long time, but not as long as you'd think. The National Archives field trip was supposed to be boring. That's what everyone said. 3 hours looking at old documents and temperature-controlled rooms, listening to a curator talk about preservation techniques. The only reason I signed up was because it got me out of fourth period calculus. There were 8 of us. Small group for a specialized historical studies elective. Ms. Brennan, our teacher, had arranged private access to some restricted collections. These documents not typically shown to high school students. She said it was a privilege, an opportunity to see history firsthand. The archives building was exactly what you'd expect. Marble, columns, the kind of architecture designed to make you feel small and reverent. We checked in at security, got visitor badges, followed Ms. Brennan through corridors that smelled like old paper and preservation chemicals. Our curator was a woman named Dr. Shaw. Early 50s, gray hair pulled back tight. The kind of person who handled documents like they were made of spider silk and prayer. She led us to a conference room in the basement, 3 floors below street level, no windows. Heavy door that sealed with a pneumatic hiss. What you're about to see has been in restricted storage since 1987, Dr. Shaw explained. It's a collection of letters and journals recovered from the Clearwater School disaster. Are you familiar with it? None of us were. Ms. Brennan looked uncomfortable. Clearwater was a private boarding school in Montana. In March of 1962, 38 students and 4 teachers vanished over a single weekend. No bodies were ever recovered. No explanation was ever confirmed. Dr. Shaw placed a file box on the table, archival gray, sealed. These are the personal effects left behind, letters, diary entries, things the students had written in the days before they disappeared. She opened the box. Inside were documents in protective sleeves. Careful handwriting on yellowed paper, some in ink, some in pencil. All of them normal, mundane, until they weren't. The first letter was from a student named Catherine, dated March 10th on 1962. Written to her parents, cheerful, talking about upcoming spring break, looking forward to coming home. Nothing unusual. The next letter was from the same student, March 11th. Same cheerful tone. But the content had changed. She mentioned a new teacher. Mr. Hillstrom, said he was teaching them about geology, about caves and underground formations. She thought it was fascinating. Dr. Shaw's voice was carefully neutral. Clearwater School had no geology curriculum, no teacher named Hillstrom on record. The third letter, dated March 12th, mentioned a field trip. Catherine was excited. They were going to explore limestone caves on the school property. She'd never been in a cave before. There were no caves on the Clearwater School property. The geological survey was thorough. Keep reading, Dr. Shaw said quietly. I picked up the next document. A journal entry from a different student. Benjamin. March 13th. He wrote about the cave trip. How they descended into passages that seemed to go on forever. How Mr. Hillstrom explained that caves were alive in their own way, how they grew and changed and remembered. Benjamin wrote that Mr. Hillstrom said some caves were older than memory, that they existed in places where geology and something else intersected, that if you went deep enough, you could find the seams where reality didn't quite fit together right. The entry ended mid-sentence. The next page was blank. Another student, Alice, wrote about hearing sounds in the caves. Not water or wind. Voices. Speaking in languages she didn't know but somehow understood. They were calling names. Names of people who'd been lost in caves over centuries. Each name spoken was an invitation. Her entry ended with a question. What happens if you answer? Ms. Brennan was reading over my shoulder. Her breathing had changed, shorter, shallower. The documents got stranger. More students mentioning Mr. Hillstrom, describing him in different ways. Some said he was young, some said old. Some said he looked familiar, like someone they'd seen before but couldn't place. They all agreed his eyes were dark, not brown or black. Dark, like looking into a cave mouth. March 14th. Multiple students wrote about going deeper. The passages expanded the further they went. Some chambers were so vast their flashlights couldn't find the walls. Mr. Hillstrom said they were approaching the center, the place where everything converged. One student, Marcus, wrote, "He showed us the map today. Not a map of the caves, a map of everything beneath, all the empty spaces under the world, all connected, all leading to the same place. He said we were chosen, that we'd been chosen before we were born. That's why we all ended up at Clearwater. Geography's just another form of destiny." March 15th. The last day anyone wrote anything. Catherine's final letter was addressed to her parents. It said, "We found it. The center. It's not a place, it's a person. Or it was once. Now it's something that remembers being a person. Mr. Hillstrom says we can help it remember better. Says it gets lonely down here. Says it's been calling for company for a very long time. I can hear it now. It sounds like my voice. It sounds like all our voices. Don't worry, we'll be home soon. Just not the home you're expecting." Dr. Shaw closed the file box. The school was evacuated and demolished. The property was surveyed extensively. They found no caves, no passages, no evidence that any of this happened. But 38 students and 4 teachers were gone, along with all their belongings except these documents. "Why are we seeing this?" Ms. Brennan asked. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. "Because 3 weeks ago, we received this." Dr. Shaw placed a new document on the table. Recent paper, modern ink, handwriting that matched Catherine's letter exactly. It was dated 2 weeks ago. It said, "Still here, still waiting. The center grows. It needs more. Tell them to keep looking. Tell them the caves are everywhere. They just haven't found the right entrance yet. Tell them we're fine. Tell them we're together. Tell them we remember everything." The room was very quiet, and the air handling system hummed. The door was still sealed. One of the other students, Jake, spoke up. "This is fake, right? Some kind of elaborate lesson about historical hoaxes?" Dr. Shaw didn't answer. She was looking at Ms. Brennan. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. "The reason we're showing you this," Ms. Brennan said slowly, "is because your school is built on the same geological formation as Clearwater. Limestone bedrock, same depth, same age. The survey done before construction noted unusual acoustic properties in the foundation. Sounds that suggested open spaces below." I felt something drop in my stomach. "Are there caves under our school?" "Officially, no. The survey was inconclusive. But there have been incidents. Students reporting strange sounds from the basement. Maintenance workers refusing to enter certain storage areas. 3 years ago, a freshman claimed she saw a door in the sub-basement that led to stairs going down. When security checked, there was no door, just wall. So why bring us here?" I asked. Dr. Shaw arranged the documents back in the box with precise movements. Because knowledge is protection. Because understanding the pattern helps you recognize it. Because if something is trying to call you, it helps to know what's calling. That's not an answer, Jake said. No, Dr. Shaw agreed. It's a warning. We left the archives an hour later. The drive back to school was silent. Miss Brennan kept checking the rear-view mirror like she expected to see something following us. At school, she pulled us aside before we went back to class. If any of you hear voices, if you see doors that shouldn't exist, if anyone approaches you claiming to be a substitute teacher you've never seen before, you tell me immediately. You don't investigate. You don't go looking. Do you understand? We said we understood. I don't think any of us really did. It was 4 months ago. Last week, Jake stopped coming to class. His parents said he was sick. Some kind of virus. But I saw him one evening walking across the school parking lot toward the gym entrance. It was after hours. The building was locked. He walked up to the door, pressed his hand against it, and it opened. Not unlocked. Opened. Like it had been waiting. He looked back once before going inside. Saw me watching from my car. Smiled. His eyes looked dark. Not brown. Dark. I called Ms. Brennan. She came to the school within 20 minutes. We searched together. Found the gym locked. No sign of entry. Called Jake's parents. They said he was home sick in bed, had been all day. But I saw him. I know I did. This morning, another student disappeared. Emma. Quiet girl, good student. She was doing research in the library after school. Security cameras show her walking toward the basement stairs. Not down them. Toward them. The footage cuts out. When it comes back 30 seconds later, she's gone. Her phone is still on her library desk. Unlocked. Last search in her browser was for Clearwater School 1962. Ms. Brennan called an emergency meeting. The 8 of us who went to the archives. She said we needed to talk, to compare notes, to figure out what was happening. But only 6 of us showed up. Jake didn't come, Emma couldn't. And the 8th student, David, were sent a message saying he couldn't make it. Said he had somewhere else to be, somewhere deeper. His message was sent from a location the phone company can't identify. Below ground level. Below where anything should be. Ms. Brennan showed us something she'd found. Old blueprints of the school. Original construction plans from 1983. They showed a sub-basement level that doesn't appear on any current schematics. Storage areas, mechanical rooms, and one chamber marked only as sealed access point, not for use. We asked what it was an access point to. She said the construction company that built the school went bankrupt in 1985. Most of their records were destroyed, but she'd found one surviving document, a change order from late in the construction. It mandated sealing off a natural cavity discovered during foundation excavation. The order specified concrete fill, rebar reinforcement, warning signs. But it also noted that sounds continued to be reported from the sealed area even after completion. Voices, calling. The construction foreman who filed the report disappeared 3 months after the school opened. Vanished from a locked site trailer. His last log entry said he'd gone to inspect the seal, make sure it was holding. They found the trailer locked from inside. No signs of struggle. Just his clipboard on the desk, with one word written over and over. Deeper. We're sitting in Ms. Brennan's classroom right now, the 6 of us who are left. It's after hours. The building is supposed to be empty, but we can hear sounds from the floor below. Footsteps, voices, singing. It's the Clearwater School song. We looked it up. The school had an anthem. The students sang it every morning. The recording we found online is from 1961. 37 voices in harmony. What we're hearing has 39 voices, and 2 of them sound like Jake and Emma. Ms. Brennan says we need to leave. Call the police. Let authorities handle it. But her hands are shaking so hard she can't work her phone. And the classroom door won't open. We've tried. It's not locked. It just won't move. Like something on the other side is holding it closed. The singing is getting closer. Coming up through the floor, through the walls. The lights are flickering. Not like electrical failure. Like something passing between us and the light source. One of the students, Sarah, is at the window. She says she can see them. Out on the grounds, dozens of people. Students in old-fashioned clothes, standing in neat rows, all facing the building, all singing. She says Mr. Hillstrom is with them. Young man, dark eyes. He's smiling, waving, like he's welcoming us to class. The floor is vibrating now, that same frequency we read about in the geological survey, acoustic resonance suggesting open spaces below. But it's not just suggesting anymore, it's showing. A crack is forming in the classroom floor. Thin at first, widening. Something is seeping through. Not water. Darkness. Liquid darkness that doesn't reflect light. It pools around our feet. Cold, beyond temperature. Ms. Brennan is trying the windows. They won't open, the glass won't break. We're 3 stories up anyway. Jumping isn't an option. The darkness is rising faster. Up to our ankles now. Where it touches, feeling stops. Not numbness, absence. Like those parts of us are already gone, already somewhere else. The singing has stopped. Now there's just a voice, single voice, speaking clearly through the walls, the floor, the darkness itself. You were always going to come down? That's what the school was built for. That's what all the schools are built for. Places to gather, the ones who listen, the ones who hear the calling. You heard it the moment you read those letters. You heard it and answered without knowing. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Sarah is crying. She says her feet are gone. She can see them in the darkness below, but can't feel them, can't move them, like they belong to someone else now. The darkness is at our knees. The crack in the floor has widened enough to see through. There are stairs below. Stone stairs, descending. And at the bottom, a light. Not electric. Something older. Something that's been burning since before burning was invented. Ms. Brennan is writing something on the whiteboard, her last lesson. It says, "Tell them it was real. Tell them the documents were real. Tell them we went deeper and found what Clearwater found. Tell them to seal the schools. All of them. Fill them with concrete and warning signs. Tell them some knowledge doesn't protect. It condemns." The darkness is at our waists. I can see my hands but can't feel them. Typing this, can't feel anything below my chest, but I can hear singing again. All the students who came before, all 38 from Clearwater, Jake and Emma, others I don't recognize, singing that same song. And I know the words now, without learning them, without trying. They're just there in my mind, like they've always been there. Ms. Brennan says we should sing too. Says it helps, says it makes the transition easier. The darkness is at our shoulders. The classroom is dissolving around us, or we're dissolving into it. Hard to tell the difference. I can see the archives from here, all of them. Every restricted document, every sealed file, every piece of evidence carefully preserved. They're not separate buildings. They're all connected underneath. All the basements lead to the same place. All the sealed chambers, all the forbidden doors. And at the center, something that was human once. Something that got lost so completely, it became the place it was lost in. Something that's been calling for company ever since. The darkness is over our heads now. We're singing, all of us. Ms. Brennan, too. Can't help it. The words come automatic, like breathing, like falling. And Mr. Hillstrom is here, standing at the bottom of the stairs, smiling with eyes like cave mouths, welcoming us, telling us we're late, but there's still room, still space in the center for everyone who hears the calling. I can see forever from here. All the schools built on limestone, all the students who listened, all the teachers who thought they were protecting knowledge when they were really protecting something else. Tell them the field trip never ended. Tell them we're still going deeper. Tell them the center is beautiful and terrible, and everyone arrives eventually. Tell them we're together. Tell them we're singing. Tell them we're... The Natural History Museum field trip was supposed to be educational. That was the word Principal Matthews used when he announced it. Educational. 12 students selected based on academic performance. A reward for maintaining honor roll status. Behind-the-scenes access to collections not open to the public. My parents were proud when I got selected. My little brother was jealous. I remember being excited. Actually excited, like this was some kind of privilege. The museum was 2 hours away. We took a school van. Mr. Keegan drove. He taught AP biology, was known for being strict but fair. He'd arranged the whole trip, had connections with someone on the museum's research staff. We arrived just before closing time. The public had already left. The vast halls were empty, our footsteps echoing on marble floors. A woman met us at the staff entrance. Dr. Reeves. Late 40s, wearing a lab coat and an ID badge that said Collections Management. "You're right on time," she said. "The specimens are waiting." She led us through corridors the public never sees, past offices and storage rooms, past laboratories with equipment I didn't recognize. Everything smelled like formaldehyde and old paper. Preservation and decay, existing in careful balance. The storage area was underground, 3 levels down. The elevator ride took longer than it should have. When the doors opened, the temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees. "Climate controlled," Dr. Reeves explained. "Specimens are sensitive to temperature fluctuation. We maintain 55 degrees year-round." The storage room was enormous. Rows of metal shelving extending into darkness. Each shelf lined with jars. Hundreds of them. Thousands. All containing specimens floating in preservation fluid. Fish. Reptiles. Things I couldn't identify. "This is the herpetology collection," Dr. Reeves said. "Approximately 47,000 specimens, most collected over the past 120 years, some much older." She pulled a jar from a nearby shelf. Inside was a snake, pale, eyeless. "This is from 1892, collected from a cave system in Tennessee. Notice the complete absence of pigmentation. Evolutionary adaptation to permanent darkness." We circled around to look. The snake was perfect, pristine, like it had been preserved yesterday. "They don't decay down here," Dr. Reeves continued. "Wrong temperature, wrong humidity. Time moves differently in preservation." She replaced the jar. "Follow me. I have something special to show you." We walked deeper into the storage area. The jars got larger, the specimens more unusual. Things with too many legs, things with none, things that looked almost human but not quite. One of the students, Marcus, stopped walking. "What is that?" Dr. Reeves followed his gaze. The jar he was pointing at contained something vaguely humanoid, small, child-sized. But the proportions were wrong. Arms too long, head too large, eyes too far apart. The anomalies collection. Probably shouldn't be stored with the standard specimens, but we ran out of space in the restricted wing. She didn't elaborate, just kept walking. Mr. Keegan looked uncomfortable. "Dr. Reeves, perhaps we should stick to the standard collection? Some of this material might be educational?" She smiled. "That's why they're here, isn't it? To learn?" We reached a door at the far end of the storage area. Heavy, metal. The kind of door designed to contain something. Dr. Reeves swiped her ID card. A light turned green. Locks disengaged with a series of heavy clunks. "This is the historical collection," she said. "Specimens from the museum's founding in 1847. Some of these predate modern preservation techniques. They're quite fragile. Please don't touch anything." The room beyond was smaller, darker. The jars here were old glass, hand-blown, irregular. The fluid inside had darkened with age to an amber color that made it hard to see the specimens clearly. But I could see enough. There were human specimens, not anomalies. People, children, perfectly preserved, floating in jars like they were sleeping. "What the fuck?" someone whispered behind me. Dr. Reeves didn't react to the language. Medical specimens from an era when ethics and science were different. These would be considered deeply inappropriate today, but they're part of the historical record. Destroying them would be erasing history. Mr. Keegan was backing toward the door. "We should go. This isn't appropriate for high school students." "They're honor roll students," Dr. Reeves said calmly. "I assume they can handle uncomfortable truths." She moved to a specific jar, larger than the others. The fluid inside was clearer, the specimen visible. It was a girl, maybe 10 years old, perfectly preserved, eyes open, staring. And she looked exactly like me. Not similar, exactly. Same face, same hair, same small scar above the left eyebrow where I'd fallen off my bike when I was 7. "That's impossible," I said. Dr. Reeves was reading the specimen label. Collection date, 1891. Subject, unknown female, approximately 10 years of age. Cause of death, undetermined. Recovered from... She stopped reading, looked at me, really looked. "Interesting. The resemblance is remarkable." "It's not a resemblance, that's me." "You weren't born in 1881. "I know that." My voice was too loud in the small room. "But that's my face, my exact face." Mr. Keegan was pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the school. This trip is over." "No signal down here," Dr. Reeves said. "Concrete walls, lead paint, standard practice for storage facilities." She moved to another jar. "You should see this one too." This specimen was a boy, older, maybe 17. Same preservation, same open eyes, same impossible familiarity. Marcus made a sound. "Nah, that's my brother. That's exactly my brother." "Your brother is deceased?" Dr. Reeves asked. "No, he's at college. He's alive, but that's his face. Jesus Christ, that's his face." Dr. Reeves moved systematically now, pulling jars forward so we could see the labels. Each one contained someone who looked exactly like one of us. 12 jars, 12 students, all collected between 1847 and 1891. All cause of death, undetermined. "This is fake," Mr. Keegan said. His voice had changed. Higher, strained. "Some kind of elaborate prank. You doctored these specimens. Photo manipulation on the faces, or..." "These specimens have been in sealed storage for over a century," Dr. Reeves interrupted. "Multiple temperature logs, chain of custody documentation. They're authentic." "Then explain it." "I can't." "Nagat, that's why you're here." The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. I noticed for the first time that there were no exits except the door we'd come through. And Dr. Reeves was standing between us and that door. One of the girls, Ashley, started crying. "I want to leave. I want to leave right now." "Of course." Dr. Reeves stepped aside from the door. "You're not prisoners. You can leave any time." But nobody moved, because we all saw it at the same moment. The jars, the specimens inside, their eyes were moving, following us, tracking our positions in the room. "They're not dead," I said. "No," Dr. Reeves agreed. "They're preserved. There's a difference." Mr. Keegan lunged for the door. It didn't open. He pulled harder. The handle moved, but the door stayed shut, like something on the other side was holding it. "The lock is automatic, Doctor," Reeves explained. "Timed seal. Prevents contamination of the specimens. It'll open in..." She checked her watch. "Approximately 6 hours. Let us out." "I can't. The seal is computerized, above my authority level." She sat down on a stool near one of the shelves. Calm. Like this was all perfectly normal. "I suggest you get comfortable. The temperature is regulated. There's air circulation. You'll be fine." "What do you want?" I asked. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "I want to know why. That's all I've ever wanted. Why 12 students collected over 44 years look exactly like 12 students selected for an honor roll field trip in 2025. Why the museum has been receiving applications from students with these specific faces for 178 years. Why every generation has their exact duplicates appearing like clockwork." "That's insane," Marcus said. "Yes, but it's also documented." She pulled a folder from a shelf, opened it. Inside were photographs, old ones, sepia-toned. Each photo showed a group of young people, different clothes, different eras, same faces, our faces. 1891, 1903, 1924, 1946, 1968, 1989, 2003, every 14 to 18 years. Same 12 faces, different names, different lives, but always the same pattern. High academic achievement, selection for special programs, visits to this museum, disappearances. "We're not disappearing," Ashley said. "People know we're here." "Mr. Keegan knows you're here, and Mr. Keegan..." Dr. Reeves looked at him with something like pity. "Has been here before, haven't you, William?" Mr. Keegan's face had gone white. "My name is Robert." "Is it? Check your ID." He pulled out his wallet, slowly, like he already knew what he'd find. The license said William Keegan, but that wasn't his name. He'd always been Robert. Everyone knew that. Everyone called him Robert, except the ID said William. And now that I really thought about it, I couldn't remember anyone actually using his first name. We just called him Mr. Keegan. Always had. "I'm Robert," he insisted. But his voice wavered, uncertain. Dr. Reeves pulled out another photograph. Black and white. 1946. A man standing in front of the museum. Young. Maybe 25. The caption read, William Keegan, Research Assistant, Collections Department. That's not me. No, it's who you were before you forgot, before the cycle started over. She stood up, moved to the jar containing the specimen that looked like Mr. Keegan. Before you were preserved. The lights flickered. Not electrical failure, something else. The specimens in their jars were moving now, not thrashing, just shifting, like they were waking up from a very long sleep. What is this place? I asked. A museum, a preservation society, a collection point. Dr. Reeves touched the glass of my jar, my specimens jar. The question isn't what, it's who. Who started collecting you? Who's been maintaining the cycle? Who benefits from having 12 specific individuals preserved, released, collected again across centuries? The door lock disengaged. Not after 6 hours, after 6 minutes. It swung open slowly. Beyond it, the storage area was different. The shelves were the same, but the jars had changed. They were all the same 12 specimens now. Hundreds of copies. Thousands. Each shelf lined with our faces at different ages, different eras, different moments of collection. You're not 12 students, Dr. Reeves said quietly. You're 12 templates, patterns. Something is using you to test preservation across time, seeing how long a specific genetic sequence can be maintained, how many iterations before degradation. Your experiments. We all are. Mr. Keegan walked to the open door, looked out at the endless shelves of his own face staring back from jars. How do we stop it? You don't. You participate. You've always participated. That's what the high achievement is, the selection process. It's your bred to be perfect specimens, intelligent enough to consent, compliant enough to comply. Every 14 to 18 years, a new generation emerges, gets educated, gets collected, gets preserved, gets released to start the cycle over. Released? I looked at my specimen jar, at the girl who was me but from 1891. Her eyes were open, had always been open, watching, waiting. The preservation isn't death, Dr. Reeves explained. It's storage. When the cycle needs to reset, when the collectors need a fresh iteration, they release a set. Those people wake up with new identities, new memories, new lives, but the same essential pattern, the same faces, the same test. Ashley was backing away from the jars. I'm not in there. I'm here. I'm real. Are you? How old are your earliest memories? Really think about it. It's not the stories you've been told, not the photographs you've seen, your actual memories. I tried to remember. Childhood, family, school. But it all felt thin, like a story I'd heard instead of lived. The earliest clear memory I had was from 3 years ago, freshman year. Everything before that was vague. Secondhand. We implant memories during the thaw, Dr. Reeves continued. Standard procedure makes integration easier. You believe you've had parents, childhoods, normal lives, but you've been in jars, all of you, waiting for your turn in the cycle. Why? Marcus asked. Why do this? Preservation, understanding, control? Dr. Reeves shrugged. I don't know the real purpose. I'm just collections management. I maintain the specimens, document the iterations. I've been doing it for... She paused. Thought about it. I'm not sure. Longer than I remember having the job. She walked to a jar at the end of the row. Inside was a woman who looked exactly like her. Same lab coat, same ID badge, same tired expression. We're all in the collection, she said. Everyone who works here, everyone who's ever worked here. The museum doesn't collect history, it generates it, creates the specimens it needs, and preserves them until the next iteration requires release. The specimens were all moving now, slow, synchronized, like they were responding to something we couldn't hear. Their eyes tracked us as we moved. Their mouths opened and closed in patterns that looked like speech. I moved closer to my jar. The girl inside pressed her hand against the glass. I pressed mine against the outside in the same spot. The glass was cold, and through it I could feel something. A connection, near recognition. "She's me," I said. "She's an earlier iteration. You're a later one, but yes, same template, same purpose." Dr. Reeves checked her watch again. "You have approximately 2 minutes before the collection team arrives. They're very efficient. Painless process. You won't remember any of this." "What happens to us?" I asked. "You get preserved, stored, released when the cycle needs you again. Could be 14 years, could be 50. Time doesn't matter in preservation. You'll wake up eventually with new memories and new lives, and you'll do this all over again until the collectors have the data they need. And if we refuse? If we run?" She gestured at the endless rows of jars stretching into darkness. "Look around. Does it seem like refusal is an option? Every iteration tries to escape. Every iteration fails. On your back in jars within hours. That's the pattern. That's how it works." Footsteps echoed from somewhere above us, coming closer. Multiple people, moving with purpose. Mr. Keegan grabbed my arm. "We need to try. Even if it's pointless, we need to try." We ran. Back through the storage area toward the elevator. But the shelves were infinite now. Every turn led to more jars, more specimens, more versions of ourselves staring back with preservation-dimmed eyes. The footsteps were behind us, ahead of us, all around us. The collection team moving through their carefully practiced patterns, herding us, guiding us back toward the preservation chambers. I turned a corner and came face to face with Dr. Reeves. Except she was young now, maybe 20. And behind her were older versions, middle-aged, elderly, all wearing the same lab coat, yet all watching with the same tired expression. "It's easier if you don't fight," the youngest version said. "Fighting just makes the preservation take longer. Adds stress markers to the specimen, corrupts the data." "I'm not a specimen," I screamed. "You've always been a specimen. You were born in a jar. You'll die in a jar. Everything in between is just field observation." She stepped aside, gestured toward a doorway I hadn't seen before. "The chambers are ready. Please proceed in an orderly fashion." The other students were there, all of them, being guided by their own earlier iterations. Marcus face to face with a child version of himself. Ashley surrounded by teenage versions at different ages. Mr. Keegan arguing with an elderly version that looked days from death. We filed into the chamber. Clean, white, filled with empty jars perfectly sized for human specimens. 12 jars, 12 of us. The math was simple. "Last chance for questions," Dr. Reeves said. She was her current age again, or maybe that was just the version I was meant to see. "Most iterations ask about purpose, about why. The truth is, I don't think the collectors know anymore. This has been running for so long that the original purpose has been lost. Now it's just procedure, protocol. The cycle continues because it always has." "Someone has to know," I said. "Someone has to be in charge." She smiled. Sad. Knowing. Do they? Or are the collectors just preserved iterations of earlier collectors who forgot why they started collecting? Maybe we're all specimens. Maybe the museum is the only thing that's real, and everything else is just documented observation. The jars were filling with preservation fluid. Clear, cold. I could smell the formaldehyde. That distinctive sharp scent that means something is being kept from decay, from time, from life. "Will we wake up?" Ashley asked. She was crying. We were all crying. But our bodies were moving toward the jars anyway, like we'd practiced this, like we'd done it 1,000 times before. "You always do," Dr. Reeves assured us. "In 14 years, in 50, in a century, the museum always needs another iteration, another data point. One you'll wake up with new memories and new lives, and you'll get selected for another special program, and you'll come back here thinking it's your first time, and we'll preserve you again and again and again, until the collectors have learned whatever they're trying to learn." I stepped into my jar. The fluid rose around me, cold, numbing. The world outside the glass got distant, muffled. My classmates were in their jars now, all of us floating, all of us staring at each other through curved glass walls. Dr. Reeves sealed the lids one by one. When she reached mine, she paused, looked at me with something like compassion. "See you next iteration," she said. The lid sealed. The fluid filled completely. And I stopped breathing not because I couldn't, but because I didn't need to anymore. Preservation takes care of everything. Oxygen, nutrients, time. I could see the other jars. See my classmates frozen in the moment just after panic, just before acceptance. See Dr. Reeves making notes on her clipboard. See the collection team wheeling us out of the chamber into storage where thousands of our iterations waited in perfect, preserved silence. I can see everything. I can think. I can remember. But I can't move, can't speak, can't do anything except exist in this perfect, preserved state until they decide the cycle needs us again. The lights go out eventually. Storage doesn't need illumination, but I can still see the jars around me, still see my own face reflected in the curved glass, still see myself at 10 years old, at 15, at 40, at 70, all the iterations they've collected, all the versions they'll collect next. And I wonder if this is what they're studying. Not our biology, not our genetics, but our awareness. Whether consciousness persists in preservation, whether we know we're specimens, whether the knowledge changes anything. The answer is no. The knowledge changes nothing. We're still here, still preserved, still waiting for release into another iteration where we'll forget we're in the collection until the moment we remember again. The museum is always open. The specimens are always waiting. And somewhere above us, another generation is being born with our faces, being raised to be excellent students, being selected for special programs, being prepared for collection. The cycle continues. It always continues. That's what museums do. They preserve, they collect, they maintain, they never let go.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more stories.